South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol faces impeachment after trying to impose martial law. Opposition lawmakers in Taiwan slammed the ruling party for comments about South Korea's martial law. Plus, as Taiwan struggles with an aging population and low birth rate, a new survey says it is not child-friendly. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. South Korea's Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun has offered to resign as the political fallout from a short-lived martial law declaration by President Yoon Suk-yeol continues. It comes as the country's legislature weighs a bill to impeach Yoon over the incident. The move could see him removed from office. An impeachment vote is expected before December 7th. It would require a two-thirds majority to pass. The decision would then need to be confirmed by the country's constitutional court. President Yoon's martial law declaration has plunged South Korea into civil and political chaos. Rosie Grenenja reports.
Dramatic scenes in Seoul after South Korea's president abruptly declared martial law on the democratic country. An extreme move usually reserved for cases of national emergency.
저는 북한 공산 세력의 위협으로부터 자유 대한민국을 수호하고 우리 국민의 자유와 행복을 약탈하고 있는 파렴치한 종북 반국가 세력들을 일거에 척결하고 자유 헌정 질서를 지키기 위해 비상계엄을 선포합니다.
The leader did not cite any specific threat from the country's nuclear-armed northern neighbour, instead focusing on his political opponents from the Democratic Party. Yoon, who won the presidency 2 years ago by a narrow margin, said the opposition had taken hostage of the parliamentary process to throw the country into crisis, holding a majority of seats and blocking legislation. Political observers say Yoon's late-night martial law announcement was an attempt to overthrow the parliamentary process and break the political deadlock. The unexpected move causing chaos in the capital. Hundreds of demonstrators descended on Parliament, clashing with police and military who surrounded the building, aiming to block lawmakers' access to the Assembly Hall. But more than half of the country's 300 legislators managed to get inside and voted unanimously to block Yoon's declaration of martial law.
190인 중 찬성 190인으로서 비상계엄 해제 요구 결의안은 가결되었음을 선포합니다.
Just hours later, the president adhered, as required by the country's constitution.
철수시켰습니다. 바로 국무회의를 통해 국회의 요구를 수용하여 계엄을 해제할 것입니다.
Military troops were ordered to stand down, and the night's events were seen as a triumph of democracy. But despite the reversal, Yoon's choice to implement such an extreme measure has only worsened his already poor standing with the public. The Conservative leader's approval rating was barely at 20%, and he was widely seen as ineffective and divisive. Yoon's actions will also have big implications beyond the country's borders, expected to affect relations with the US and the wider region. The United States has relied on South Korea and Japan as its most important allies in East Asia to combat threats from both North Korea and China.
So we have now these three key allies who have forged a close trilateral cooperation over the last year and a half, facing politically uncertain times. And I think that opens the door to potential North Korean and or Chinese and Russian moves to destabilize the region.
Two of Yoon's senior aides have now offered their resignation, and opposition leaders are calling for the president himself to step down.
내란죄를 피할 수 없습니다. 윤 대통령은 더 이상 정상적인 국정 운영을 할 수 없음이 온 국민 앞에 명백히 드러났습니다.
A demand echoed by protesters in Seoul, leaving the leader with not only a failed attempt to overthrow parliament, but an even deeper crisis that has his entire political career on the line. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
For more on what's happening in South Korea, Alec McDonald spoke to East Asian International Relations Caucus Senior Fellow Hu Cho-ping.
As the declaration and now lifting of martial law unfolded last night, and there is widespread opposition from lawmakers and citizens, what can we begin to take away?
We were deeply touched by the lawmakers, not only from the opposition party, the Progressive Party, but also from the ruling party itself. 18 of them come to the National Assembly overnight so that they can vote to end the martial law. So I think in a way it really showcased the power of democracy that is very alive and well in South Korea. So the Korean people, some of them wake up to the news unaware of what happened last night. So many of them actually go to school, go to work as usual. So it's just that people who learn about what happened last night was very upset, angry. So there is a high call for the president to step down or else he will face impeachment.
And that is the next step, that there have been calls. The Democratic Party, the opposition party in Korea, has given him 48 hours to resign or begin the impeachment process. What are the next steps, both constitutionally and legally?
I think the opposition party is providing President Yoon a grace period for him to resign himself. So otherwise, the impeachment would be highly embarrassing, and he will be the next president who will be ended in jail. So not only that, many advisors who is close to Yoon Suk-yeol has offered resignation, claiming that they have no idea that the president would declare martial law, and that include his own chief of staff and top senior aide in the presidential office. So there is also a call for him, offering by the ruling party leader himself to President Yoon that he should fire the defense minister because apparently Defense Minister Kim is the one that suggested President Yoon to declare the martial law.
Do you have any sense of why Defense Minister Kim offered this as a realistic solution for President Yoon?
Due to the multiple frustrations over the past few months, since April this year, due to opposition party overtaking the number of seats, majority of seats in National Assembly, and hence many of the budget proposal and the legislature amendment that the ruling party proposed has been blocked by the opposition party. So, and there is also several scandals being investigated, including President Yoon's wife, of which he blocked for 3 times now, and I believe there is some, this is one of the trigger for him to declare the martial law so that he will no longer face challenge by the opposition party.
That was East Asian International Relations Caucus Senior Fellow Hu Cho-ping. Here in Taiwan, ruling party lawmakers are distancing themselves from comments they initially made about the unexpected declaration of martial law by South Korea's president. But opposition lawmakers are not letting the comments slide. Joyce Zhang has more.
As the world watched chaos unfold in Seoul after President Yoon Suk-yeol declared emergency martial law, Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party took to social media, posting this on its official account representing the party's lawmakers, seemingly comparing South Korea's situation to Taiwan by listing how the opposition Kuomintang and Taiwan People's Party, who together control the legislature, have either blocked or, quote, maliciously amended the rule of law. The post has since been deleted after it drew a backlash from opposition lawmakers and others who saw it as apparent support of martial law. The DPP was quick to clarify, explaining in a second post that there was no intention to support the imposition of martial rule, and that they were simply relaying international news and comparing it with the domestic political situation. Ultimately, they expressed regret for causing a commotion, a message reiterated by party lawmakers in person.
我们党团的发文，那随即有删文撤下。这就表达民进党团正式的立场，我们不会不应去过度的评论他国的内政， 我们要做的是安国人的心，也要避免慎防造成社会过多的误解跟不必要的对立。
The DPP was born when the now opposition Kuomintang, or KMT, was in power, a brutal post-war martial law era that lasted nearly 4 decades. The DPP lawmakers acknowledged this in their updated post, saying they know how harmful martial law is to democracy. But this has not appeased their opposition counterparts, who continue to question why the DPP appeared to support what was an unpopular and now unsuccessful martial law order in Seoul. The KMT has also accused the DPP of attempting to quash dissenting voices and are demanding more than an expression of regret.
如果这就是民进党上下的态度，认为戒严是可以消灭不同的声音，容不下任何一粒沙子，容不下任何不同声音的话，那真的就坐实了。绝对的权力使人绝对的腐化。如果民进党团还是没有愿意为这个贴文道歉的话，你们对不起民主2个字。
The KMT has also called on President Lai Ching-te, who is out of the country visiting allies in the Pacific, to apologize for his party mates' comments. They have made it clear they have nothing more to say. As South Korean President Yoon now faces impeachment, his shock martial law decree has also caused chaos here in neighboring Taiwan, fanning the flame of political infighting, with each party pushing for what it believes is a democratic society. Luffy Lee and Joyce Zinn for TaiwanPlus.
President Lai is on his way to the U.S. territory of Guam after a short visit to the Pacific island nation of Tuvalu, one of Taiwan's 12 remaining diplomatic allies. Lai met with Tuvalu Prime Minister Felipe Teo and other officials and signed several agreements, including one on undersea cables. Lai was only in the country for about 7 hours before departing for an overnight stop in the U.S. territory of Guam, where he will reportedly meet with its governor. Lai will then move on to another of Taiwan's allies, Palau, the final stop of his diplomatic tour through several Pacific islands. Taiwanese university and high school students are protesting a visiting Chinese delegation, calling their exchanges fake and saying that they are part of China's United Front tactics. Keden's Kuranta reports.
拒绝统战，对等交流。
Inside Taiwan's legislature, university and high school students are speaking out against the Chinese delegation currently in the country. The group of students and athletes was invited by former President Ma Ying-jeou's foundation, an effort it says is to foster cross-strait communication and exchanges. But students here say these exchanges are fake and that there didn't seem to be a desire for real communication. They say when the delegation came to their universities, they were kept in the dark about it.
That happened at NTU, but as a student from NTU, we have no open information. We have no way to know when and where it's going to happen.
The local students say they wanted to speak with the group about democracy and human rights issues in China.
我们希望可以分享台湾的经验给中国，但是很遗憾的，从中国同学回避接触、快步离去的结果来看。 中国的参访团其实丝毫不想与我们进行真正的交流。
The students accuse the Chinese delegation of being part of Beijing's attempts to undermine Taiwan's sovereignty, as Taiwan's Chinese Affairs Office says almost all of the Chinese students are affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party. Some Taiwanese legislators have also raised concerns, as have some local groups, who accuse the students of being used as United Front tools. Also sparking backlash is a comment from a Chinese student in the delegation referring to Taiwan's national baseball team as China Taipei instead of its official name, Chinese Taipei. The foundation's CEO has dismissed concerns about the delegation's CCP ties and has stressed the importance of the exchanges to maintaining peace across the strait. But some say they likely won't have any immediate impact, even if they do create some communication between the two sides.
These exchanges might introduce some mutual understanding among the participants involved. They might communicate it to other people. However, I don't think that, at least at this stage, it really matters because none of these students are yet in positions of power. Maybe it'll matter in 20 or 30 years, but at this point, I think it's largely irrelevant.
The delegation still has a little more time in Taiwan, and many around the country are keeping a close eye on the group's movements. Justin Wu, Jeremy Olivier, and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
Parents with young children have given Taiwan poor marks for child friendliness. A recent survey gave the country 47 out of 100 points in terms of ease of taking children out in public. Over half said this can be stressful and that attitudes towards children are unfriendly. One of the biggest problems they reported was blocked or uneven sidewalks, making it hard to get around with strollers. They also pointed to issues on public transport, from few spaces for strollers to erratic bus drivers. The findings come as Taiwan faces a new tipping point in its population decline, with a fifth of the country set to be 65 or older next year. For a deeper look into what the survey's results mean for Taiwan, John Van Trieste spoke to Cho Ching-hui of the Child Welfare League Foundation, the survey's creator.
This isn't the first time your organization has put out this kind of survey. How do the results this time compare with those in the past?
我们感觉还蛮意外的啦，因为这几年因为行人地狱的这个议题，所以大家其实很关心行人在用路上的一个安全。但是我们这一次的调查就是跟7年前相比，其实有育儿的家长对于使用那个推车在路上走，觉得还是一样的不方便。不太意外的一个发现就是，台湾因为这几年少子化的问题很严重，所以我们其实每个人身边就是有机会会照顾小孩，或者是接触到孩子的这个机会其实是变得很少。身边的小孩子在哭闹，会比较没有耐心跟不耐烦。
How big would you say is this difficulty in taking children out in public a factor in making people not want to have children?
一般人不太愿意再生养小孩，也是跟育儿的成本，它其实增加很多是有关的。那以及这整个社会，它到底对于这样子的一个家庭是不是很友善的对待？如果你今天推的是一个宠物推车，上面是很可爱的狗，然后它可能叫个2声的话，我觉得可能旁边的人还会说哦，它好可爱什么之类的。可是如果今天这整个社会的氛围是说你不会教，那你就不要带出门，那它就会影响到他说啊，那我真的还要再生吗？
The government has been trying in recent years to get people to have more children without too much success. Looking at the results of this survey, what are some concrete steps you think the government could take to boost the birth rate?
台湾政府的政策还是以撒钱为主这样子，但是我必须老实说，这整个社会的友善氛围，它其实不是你给家长钱就可以解决的，所以我觉得它可以透过一些戏剧或者是一些推广。让更多人去了解说，孩子他发展就是这样子，我们可以怎样去帮助他？我觉得这些社会大众的宣导教育是还蛮重要的啦。对，因为像我自己我自己有3个小孩，我就会觉得我常常就是会有一些白眼这样。但是我必须老实说，我出国的时候我就觉得，为什么都不会有白眼？我就想说，我的小孩变天使了吗？绝对不是。
That was Cho Ching-hui of the Child Welfare League Foundation. Coming up after the break, a Chinese-funded deep-water port has changed the lives of Peruvians living nearby. Stay with us.
At Connected, we believe in the power of dialogue. It's not just about the headlines, it's about finding common ground. Join the conversation.
Connected with Divya Gopalan on TaiwanPlus.
I'm Ed Moon in Taiwan's Jinmen Islands, and you're watching TaiwanPlus News, the voice of freedom in Asia.
经历过人生的话，你发现说我们大部分都是爱美的。
我自己少遇见一朵花，我可能就不是这个样子。
开始思考什么叫做一个本土性，
大声的唱出来说我是台湾人。
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Cambodia has sentenced 13 women from the Philippines to prison for acting as illegal surrogate mothers for foreign clients. The 13 pregnant women were arrested alongside 24 others from the Philippines and Vietnam. Each of the pregnant women was sentenced to 4 years in prison, while the others who were not pregnant were deported. Commercial surrogacy is banned in Cambodia and falls under its human trafficking law. Philippines authorities have previously said the women themselves are the victims of human trafficking. The Philippines Coast Guard has accused China of aggressive actions in the South China Sea. Manila released a video showing a Chinese vessel shooting water cannons and blocking their ship near the contested Scarborough Shoal. A spokesperson for the Philippines said the Chinese vessel aimed directly at their navigational antenna. China's Coast Guard says 4 Philippine ships had, quote, dangerously approached their vessels and tried to enter China's territorial waters. China claims nearly the entire South China Sea, and incidents with the Philippines have escalated over the past year. Transforming South America. That's what a new deepwater megaport in Peru has promised to do. But for those people living nearby, that comes at a steep price. Harel Hughes reports from Peru.
This is what life is like now for the Arguedas family in Chancay, Peru. Just north of Lima, they've had to deal with daily intruders on their property for the last few years, all after a glimpse of the new addition to the neighborhood, a deepwater megaport funded mostly by China, right at the Arguedas' doorstep.
Nosotros vivimos en la constante idea de que, no sé, vamos a seguir acá, no vamos a seguir acá, qué va a suceder con nuestras viviendas, va a haber más contaminación, no sé, sonora, va a haber más peligro, no sabemos.
Looming over this small fishing community, the $3.6 billion project is now the largest shipping complex on the western coast of South America. And Peru's government is hopeful that the newly opened megaport will transform trade between South America and Asia.
Con esta mega obra damos inicio a una transformación que consolidará al país como un centro logístico, tecnológico e industrial de clase mundial que nos proyectará de manera estratégica en la región Asia-Pacífico.
But there are mixed feelings among Chancay's 60,000 residents. Since the megaport's construction, fishers have returned from sea with smaller catches. The waves that once brought local surfers no longer exist. And the beach is now dotted with warnings of pollution. All this is not just changing Chancay, it's affected people's income.
Económicamente yo, gracias a esta playa, he podido educar a mis hijos. Gracias a esta playa que me quemo los pies, porque lamentablemente mis padres no me pusieron a estudiar y me puse a trabajar y de acá sacamos para todo, para el agua, la luz, la comida, todo.
But some residents say they realize they can't hold back the tides of progress.
La verdad que son sentimientos encontrados, ¿no? Nosotros hemos crecido acá en esta tierra hermosa, esta playa tan hermosa. Bueno, era una playa de turistas, de pescadores, se comía pescado, una época dorada de langostino, de mucho pescado. Bueno, pero también ahora viene el desarrollo, ¿no? Una empresa privada viene con todo. Esperemos que las autoridades también se preocupen por el pueblo, ¿no?
Designed to accommodate some of the world's largest containers, the port was also meant to give jobs to the locals. But residents say that has yet to happen. This megaport has promised to reshape Peru's economy and even trade across South America. But the biggest change will be seen here, in this once sleepy fishing town, where residents and fishermen must now learn to adapt to their new role as a doorway to South America. Scott Huang, Reese Ayers, and Harrell Hughes in Chancay, Peru for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has become the world's second largest supplier of semiconductor manufacturing equipment, overtaking South Korea. New figures from industry group SEMI show Taiwan's third quarter revenue from sales of semiconductor equipment was $4.69 billion. That's a year-on-year increase of 19%. China stayed in first place at $12.93 billion. Taiwan is the world's top producer of high-end semiconductors, but as the new numbers show, its share of the market for equipment is also growing. Stephen Liu, known as the godfather of Chinese language pop music, has died of cancer. Liu composed over 2,000 songs throughout his career and was a towering figure in Mandopop from the 1970s to the early 80s. He produced many tracks which helped establish several stars, including Taiwan's iconic Teresa Teng. Local media reported that tumours were discovered in Liu's brain and lungs earlier this year. Liu was in his early 80s. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we finish up today with these images of a Hungarian village recreated in gingerbread, complete with a working train, crushed candy church windows, and local houses and shops. I'm Yin Khvat. Take care. See you next time.